Welcome to Courtney on Health, heard exclusively on MalcolmPresents.com, a screening network bringing original programming that's not heard anyplace around the world. And we have translation in all the languages thanks to the UN. And of course,
Seriously?
that's not true.
It would be fun. Anyway.
Anyway, welcome, guys.
All right,
Hello.
welcome. Hello. And hi to Courtney and the lovely Courtney and Malcolm, our guy out in LA. Welcome to Courtney on Health. It's a Zoomcast and a podcast on all major podcast apps series, and it focuses on one's overall well-being with tips on nutrition and exercise given by Courtney Gravenese, registered dietitian and exercise physiologist or guru. I don't know. She is an experienced nutritional and health consultant in the New York metro area. And we have to define beyond because we keep going into the universe. And she'll help guide you on a path to wellness and health. So the school bells are ringing. Some of them have already rung in different parts of the country. But in the Northeast, it's coming up after Labor Day, which is traditional. And so the morning dance to get the kiddos out is about to begin. No offense to Pop-Tarts and Lucky Charms, but a balanced breakfast is extremely important. And getting your young kids and teens to eat a good breakfast it's sometimes a struggle. Studies show that eating breakfast positively affects school performance. Children have better concentration and more energy. Research has been done which finds that kids who eat breakfast in the morning before a standardized test have significantly higher scores in math, spelling, and reading than those who don't. So breakfast is a great way to give the body the refueling it needs. Kids who eat breakfast tend to eat healthier overall and are more likely to be physically active and maintain a healthy weight. So what strategies can parents use to get their kids to have breakfast before they head out and head off to school? I remember it was always a fun time, and I know Courtney has kiddies, one in college already. So Courtney, give us some great info because you've experienced it, and as a dietitian, you know even more of some ideas and info of how to prepare breakfast and lunch and get the kids to eat a balanced meal.
Sure. So even if your kiddos have started, and I am mindful of the fact that elsewhere in the country, kids are already full steam ahead. You can still use many of these, I hope, some of these suggestions to help manage your mornings a little bit better so that there's greater calm and there's less chaos because that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help a parent, doesn't help a caregiver, certainly doesn't help the student as they're rushing out the door to get to school. So you mentioned it, Maxine, if I were in a room of adults and they asked me, based on data and personal experience and my client base, must we all eat breakfast? I would probably encourage it, but I would say, you know what, it's a little mixed in adults, start a little bit later, not a big deal. What we know about kids, however, is a little bit different. We know that those kids, and you said it, that have some kind of breakfast, and we'll talk about the best kinds in a sec, they have better attention records in school, so attendance, attention, performance, and just how well they feel in school. So we really know that there's some very good data that really suggests breakfast really is, in the kiddos, the best meal, important meal of the day. What that meal should be, let's take it easy, take an exhale. Parents are busy, caregivers are busy. In some cases, for families with older kiddos, parents are out of the house before the kiddos have left, to go get the bus or to walk or however they're getting to school. So sometimes for teenagers, they're left to their own devices to make their own breakfast. So, the first thing I would say is assess what your situation is, how much time you have available to you in the mornings. And in many cases, there will be a little bit of encouragement for you to possibly get up a few minutes, 5 to 10 minutes earlier, if you find that breakfast is just not happening for your kiddos in the morning. And 5 to 10 minutes can make a big difference.
Yeah.
But I do realize that, I work with a lot of different types, working parents, parents who work, but they work at home. So it's a mixed bag. And I'm mindful of the fact that I know that this is not easy to do. In a perfect world, there should be some protein, some carbohydrate, and some fat in the breakfast meal, whatever that is to you. But even if it's something or one of those or two of those, macronutrients in it, we still know that that's better than nothing. Best case scenario, I know not everybody eats eggs, but eggs are super easy in the morning. I love oats. Either make ahead oats one of two ways, and that could be overnight oats in the refrigerator. Or it can be using, if you have one, a crock pot, particularly if you've got a bunch of kiddos that you're cooking for and they all like oatmeal and you like oatmeal. You set it up the night before, you put the ingredients in the crock pot, you wake up in the morning and it's already ready. You have to do little except add, maybe some maple syrup or your toppings or whatever you want to put in there. So it's a great way, complex carbohydrate. If you're adding things like seeds, nuts, and using either soy milk or cow's milk, you're adding a complete protein to the mix. So it really is, if you and your kids like it, a great inexpensive option for quick, nutritious breakfast in the morning.
Right.
So yogurts, nut butters, even if you just can get a glass of milk or soy milk in your kid in the morning, because they are both complete proteins, consider that a win. Don't start there. You got nowhere to go. But if that's all you can do, then fantastic. And at least you're starting with a little bit of protein and a little bit of carbohydrate to send them on their way.
Yeah. Now you're talking about kids, but kids can be school age. So you're talking probably about from 5 to 15 or 16. Are there any different foods for the younger ones versus the older ones?
No, it's very personal and preference. And by the way, this is for, some 2-year-olds and 18-month-olds are going off into, childcare facilities. So some of those provide breakfast, some of them don't. So I would say to you that it's not just starting at 5-year-olds. It may, in some cases, be starting even younger than that. And what better way to start a routine of, we eat breakfast in this household, than younger. Younger always better, because then they, much like so many things we try to instill in our kiddos, habit and routine is only going to help you later on down the road. So I would say younger than that and up to 18, but you lose a little bit of control once your kids are, high school age. At that point, many teenagers are making their own breakfasts. They have, very, very established preferences on what they want. And your role as a caregiver or parent is to really help them, hopefully in the right, direction, so that they are including, maybe it's, if they have a favorite cereal and it's not the best cereal, and I'm not throwing any cereal under the bus, but let's just say it's like a Rice Crisp cereal, right? If that's their favorite and they're not moving off that, but they really like that, like we said, hopefully they're having it with some kind of milk, either soy or cow's milk. Maybe just throw in a little, maybe they'll have a piece of fruit with it. Maybe you can encourage them to have like a handful of nuts or seeds or some other type of protein in there, just to give them more staying power, so their blood sugars don't bottom out on them halfway through the morning. That's a win.
Right.
So don't necessarily turn your nose up to, boxed cereals. I know they get a bad reputation. I know many of them are loaded with sugar. But if you can choose ones that are not as, as high in sugar, and sort of give it a little zhuzh, again, you could do far worse. And particularly a teenager where they've got very, very specific wants and needs and preferences that they tend to incorporate into their mealtime.
So there's good box cereals. There's some that are good. And that's what I tried to get into my kid. And there's also other hot cereals as well, which, I grew up with. My mom would make oatmeal. She'd make farina. She'd make wheatina, stuff that's a little, not necessarily oatmeal. It was I don't know if it was a Brooklyn thing or a thing, but I love hot cereal, like any type.
Yeah.
So and of course, growing up in the time when the box cereal was what you used to point out, and kids still do, I imagine, but I'm sure they have a Barbie Rice Krispies now. Who knows? I don't
Who
even know.
knows? Who knows? But
Who knows? So what
I
else?
know,
What
and
else?
I get it, and you know, so the privilege of having done this for so long is I've seen a lot of stuff, and you know, I've seen cereals come and go. And again, I wouldn't start with a boxed cereal necessarily, but all I'm trying to say is parents can calm down. It's like you can help it out a little bit and get some breakfast in your kid, and have that be an option. Maybe don't start there, but maybe consider that as an option. I think if your kid's an egg eater, scrambled eggs are super easy. When I'm working with parents, it's like, there's no way I've got time for scrambled eggs in the morning. Just give it a shot.
It takes
It's
shorter than you think. Yeah.
It's shorter than you think. And I actually, now before everybody jumps ugly on the dietitian for promoting bacon, I get it. You know,
bacon.
in here. This happens to be, it's pre-cooked. I know it's going to sound really bad, guys. It's pre-cooked chicken bacon. There are 4 ingredients in here. It's like chicken thighs, salt, a little bit of celery powder. What else is in here? And a little bit, there's a little bit of sugar, but very little.
What does it say on the box? What, I mean, how is it?
This is Welshire. It's uncured chicken bacon. It's already cooked. You find it. You have to keep it in the refrigerator. Once you've opened the packet in there. Again, I'm trying to give options. I'm not saying start here, but if the only way your kiddo is going to eat a scrambled egg is if there's a slice of one of these guys sitting along next to it, then you know what? Consider it an option.
Yeah,
Add a piece of fresh
I
fruit.
think my aunt used to make that. They called it kosher bacon. Because
Kosher bacon.
obviously, yeah, because bacon is made from pork, which is not kosher. She kept a kosher house. So there's strips like that they made that were crispy like
there's
bacon.
turkey bacon now. I mean, there's a lot of things. There's impossible bacon that it's not even
Right now.
I mean,
Here's the difference. Here's the difference, though. The reason why and you know me, I will not recommend. I'm not in anybody's pockets, right? If I recommend something, it's because it tastes good. It's got, and I've vetted it, so to speak. There's a far difference between what I'm encouraging here, and many of the other bacons, whether it be faux bacon or even turkey bacon that's out in the market. This brand in particular is a standout. So I'll post it when I do my post, so you know what I'm talking about. Few ingredients, one couple of slices here and there is not going to be the end of anybody. It's not the end all be, you know, don't start there, but if it's a way to encourage, you could do worse. Cottage cheese, like I know cottage cheese is not a popular food among kiddos, but maybe your kid likes it. Cottage cheese toasts. Cottage cheese is a powerhouse of probiotics, protein, calcium. It's a real winner. It's budget friendly. It doesn't tend to be very expensive. It's got a decent shelf life, as we can say, that lives, you know, it'll stay in your fridge for a while. Again, maybe not every kid's favorite, but as an option, potentially, you could do it's actually an excellent breakfast if your kiddo likes that kind of thing. I think for older kids, teenagers, it's become sort of a little trendy. It's like avocado toast. You can make like cottage cheese toast in the morning, add a piece of fruit. Great, solid. You got that great combination, protein, fat, carbohydrate going on. Easy, quick. It's already in your refrigerator. Just toast up a piece of toast.
Yeah, the kids see the avocado toast in the coffee houses. I mean, because a lot of them are selling it, and cottage cheese, yeah, is definitely making a comeback. But what about the kiddos who do like lunch? I mean, breakfast in school and lunch in school. I mean, how does that work out? And what's the best way to try to purvey what they're being fed and what the options are, and how does that work these days?
Right. So thank you for bringing that up, because for many kids, in the absence of school breakfast and or school lunch programs, they might not be getting many meals at all. So it is such an important option for many families. I will tell you that school lunch programs and school breakfast programs have come a long way. So I know we're specifically talking about breakfast today, but I would seriously reconsider, or at least explore and see what the lunch options are. Usually it's available on websites now, what the breakfast options are and what the lunch options are, and maybe rethink it. again, it's very different than what it was a decade ago, of, horrible options. So I think for many people, it is certainly an option to consider. For breakfast, it's typically going to consider, and it depends on the region of the country in which you live. But there's always going to be a dairy, and I'm seeing much more plant-based options now because people are looking into those options. Hopefully, from my view, it's a soy-based option in there because of the protein content that soy milk has, as opposed to other plant milks. There's typically some kind of fruit. Now that fruit can be either fresh fruit, or as long as the fruit cups are using packed in water or packed in the fruit's own juices, that's considered a fruit as well. So it's usually including those types of options. There would typically be maybe an egg type of option in the mix as well. And again, depending on the region, there may be more and more plant-based options for individuals who are choosing to choose more plant-based.
Are they hot meals in the morning, or mostly, cold, cereals and yogurts and maybe
I will say,
bananas, whatever?
yeah, at this point, it's heavily cold. But again, and I'm not sure if I mentioned it at the top of our time, but it's important for me to say this. What the research has shown us is that some breakfast is better than no breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
So even if that kiddo is only getting a piece of fruit, maybe a bagel, a teaspoon of peanut butter that they might have, and a cup of milk, they're doing far better than, maybe somebody who might be eating nothing at home and then going off to school. So I would, again, the breakfast menu and lunch, I know lunch menus are available on school websites. Look into them as an option. So these, I'm talking about public schools now.
Right.
So look into them as an option. And then if that doesn't work for you, know that there are very economical options. Nut butters, on a piece of toast or on a bagel is a great option for you. We've spoken about things like kefirs, like smoothies, which because of their wide availability now, the price has come down a little bit, so it makes it an option. Again, you could do far worse than that. I really encourage making use of quick breads. And again, I know this requires time on the weekend, but it's time well spent using things like canned pumpkin, mashed bananas that maybe you've frozen, zucchini, and making these quick breads, which really are super easy. They usually require just one bowl. You make some, you can use whatever sweetener you want, whatever grain, whatever type of flour you want, and they freeze beautifully. They're usually kid favorites. They're economical. You put them in the freezer, you slice them up in the morning, you send your kid on your way. Again, good options, easy, economical, and you can make it ahead so that your morning is a little bit more manageable.
Yeah.
I was lucky because my son is and was growing up a really good eater, and he would get up a little early so I can make an egg omelet or a veggie omelet with toast and whatever milk, and of course the box of cereal would sometimes be I want this, no, I want that in the supermarket. It's like the battle of the box cereal, but yeah, it's just so important. And so God only knows what they're doing in college. Now we're talking about the youngins. I can't even imagine,
How do you avoid I don't remember what I did. It's been so long ago with the kids, and let's say you pack a good lunch for them, and half of the lunch winds up in the garbage can, and then they eat their candy or whatever.
Yeah. I just actually wrote an article about this, Malcolm, and it focused specifically on lunch, and it was a whole host of different suggestions and it addresses that issue specifically. It's like, that doesn't help anybody. It's wasteful of food. Your kid's going to trade out what you sent. You in theory, in your perfect world, your kid is eating this incredibly balanced, delicious fruits and hopefully that's the case. But for a lot of kids, that's not. So you got to pack what they're going to eat, right? So that they eat what you pack. There can be, and then for some kids though, maybe it's not a standard sandwich. Maybe it's leftovers from the night before. Maybe, remember, there's a cultural bend to all of this. Not all of us eat the very American way. And in some cases, that's actually probably better. So maybe it's leftover fish from the day before, or maybe it's, you know what, mom's busy, dad's busy. It's a leftover cold slice of pizza, but you packed in some carrots, some cucumber slices in there, and a piece of fruit. They're happy. They look like the king or queen because they've got pizza for lunch. You've used up your leftovers and they're eating what you've packed, and it's really not that awful. So there are wide variability. There's wide variability in terms of the kinds of lunches you eat. Maybe make a bento box type option. So maybe it doesn't contain fish and rice and seaweed, but maybe it contains dips and hummus and bean dips and veggies and whole grain crackers. And maybe that's what your kid needs for lunch. And that's fine because it's balanced. That's what you're looking for, and it bridges that gap until they get home.
Well, speaking about pizza, I never saw what's bad about pizza unless you add all the junk in. But pizza is bread, tomato sauce, and cheese.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with pizza would be necessarily how much of it you're having, right?
Right, eating it every day or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Is this your default lunch and dinner every day? Then it becomes an issue. Are you having it with tons of sausage and or pepperoni on top, which of course has got a lot of saturated fat and sodium to it? So your average slice of pizza, like I said, look, what are you serving it along with? At dinner time, is it being served with a big salad? At lunchtime, in this case, which is what I encourage sometimes for parents with very particular kiddos, and they're like, the only thing this kid's going to eat is pizza, and it's like, fine, then pack along with it.
But by the way, guys,
they will eat. Yeah,
our time is up, and you're speaking about pizza in California, so much lunchtime.
Okay.
And I think I'll go get pizza.
He's gonna go have some pizza now. Pizza is one of the prime breakfasts of, believe it or not, pilots. I mean, it's like I was a pilot one. He was getting pizza, and it was like 7 o'clock in the morning or some ridiculous time, and it was open. And I looked at the guy, and he looked at me. He goes, "Yeah, pilots eat pizza for breakfast."
No,
And we
Poor
were
guy,
joking
his
around.
clock is probably all crazy. It was probably 7 o'clock at night.
Right, he could have been in Australia before, right?
Actually, you know what I like? If we had pizza for dinner the night before, I could have
for breakfast
for breakfast cold.
Yeah. My kiddo would have pizza in the morning. Yeah, absolutely. And he would like lunch for breakfast. All right. Well, Courtney will have more information on her all her various social pages, which I will give you that information now. And
take us out, Max.
I'm going to take us out. Is that okay, Courtney? We're good.
Good.
All right. So we're gonna take this out. And here we go. Thanks for joining us for Courtney on Health. To get more info, follow Courtney on her Facebook page, which is Courtney on Health, on Instagram and TikTok at CLG Wellness. Visit our website, CourtneyGravenese.com. For past shows, go to MalcolmPresents.com and theManyShadesOfGreen.com. This has been Courtney on Health. Smart Sound Nutrition, strong, safe fitness. And we will catch you again next time.
See you next time.
Anyway, thanks, guys. And as I always end it with, all the Courtney shows are they're not old, because she always talks about good things that you should know. So if you haven't seen the last 2 years, go to MalcolmPresents.com, binge watch, and you'll find all the good information that Courtney has to give.
Binge watch, but don't binge eat. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.